Brother Guy Ryder, Director General of the ILO, Minister Josephine Teo, Sister and fellow Cabinet Minister, President Robert Yap, SNAF, President Mary Liu, NTUC CC, and fellow Central Committee members, and also dialogue partners, fellow ministers from ASEAN, including our 6 ASEAN dialogue partners, Mongolia and Timor-Leste, brothers, sisters, friends. As the last speaker of the day, it is my great pleasure to deliver the closing remarks. And closing remarks, especially after all the wisdom that we have heard from government and from businesses. It is left to the union representative to string it all together. As usual, they have all the concepts, we have to do the hard work. Well, obviously, no, I'm joking. But seriously though, Dr. Robert Yap actually makes sense just now. It has been a long day, and I stand between you and Orchard Road. And I stand between you and a good cold one, and I stand between you and the Singapore economy. So I want to demonstrate how friendly the unions are in Singapore. I give you 2 choices. Do you want the long version of my speech, or do you want the short version of my speech? Who wants the long version? I thought so. Only Guy Ryder, the workaholic. So I will just make give you one simple story, and maybe just give you one point in my speech. How many of you have not heard of the story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears? I'm sure all of you have heard of it and are now cranking in your head, what the heck does Goldilocks have to do with the future of work? Well, in the story, you know that Goldilocks went for a walk and enjoyed herself so much in the forest that she happened to chance upon a house. And being out the whole day, got hungry and tired, and without good manners, went into the house, tasted the porridge that was too hot, too cold, and found the right temperature porridge. And after she has eaten, decided to sleep in the first bed that was too hard, the second bed that was too soft, and the third bed that was just right. And when she woke up, sat on the chairs that were too big. And when she eventually sat on the chair that was just right, she broke the chair. And when the bears came home, they were mightily upset. And Goldilocks ran away frightened, never to go into the forest again. Well, this story is one of the very few children's stories that does not have a happily ever after ending. And it is not written by a Singapore unionist. Because if it's written by a Singapore unionist, especially from the NTUC, Goldilocks and the 3 bears would sit down and have a conversation and a forum, like today. Why would the Singapore unionists, the Singapore government, and our Singaporean employers come together? It is like what Leilin said just now. Because in the midst of agreements or disagreements, we have conversations. And in the midst of agreements and disagreements, regardless, we build the important element of trust. And because of our history, we have done so for the last 50 years. And we have a credit reservoir of trust where all of us can come together with agreement or without agreement and sit down and, as brothers and sisters with shared ownership of our country, with shared ownership of the vision that Sister Josephine mentioned, so that we can create an agile, productive, and future-ready workforce. So the key thing that I want to impress upon you is that we will continue to build that trust, but not just building the trust, but bringing a practical proposal onto the table for the government and our business employers to agree upon. What do I mean? Well, in spite of all the things that we have spoken about today, there are many workers in the world that are fearful of technology. Why? Simply because technology is seen, and in some instances real, in taking away their bread and butter. Even in Singapore, for all the accolades our friends from around the region and the world has given us, some of my workers, in fact, some of my union leaders, are just as fearful of technology. So, Brother Patrick Tay, what he said about changing mindset is critical. All of us know that we need to shift mindset. The question is how? How would we practically link the government macro policies, the business requirements of the bottom line together with workers' interests? So it is tough. But in Singapore, I'm always thankful that our government provides the macro framework so that the businesses can move and the workers can move. What do I mean by this? Well, in Singapore, if you go to the different websites of our government, you will see all kinds of grants. Enterprise Development Grant, Inclusive Growth, IGP, Inclusive Growth Grant, or whatever the real name is, Adapt and Grow, Professional Conversion. We have Skills Future, we have our NTUC, UTAP for training. We got all kinds of things that the government has put together in the macro space to encourage transformation, to encourage innovation. And they also have come out with a clear direction. The government have come with a clear direction of industry transformation through the 23 ITMs that we are quite familiar with in Singapore. Workers are helped by Workforce Singapore, by SSG, to match our training under the broad framework of Skills Future into this industry transformation. But nevertheless, I think that the unions have a role to play, and this is genuine that I had picked up over 1 year on the ground with my brothers and sisters. That while we have these macro programs, they are fearful still, perhaps, but in many ways also, they don't quite understand what they need to do. So what is the role of unions in the future of work? In the last panel, where we want a future-ready workforce and an agile workforce, well, we have a simple proposal to collate all the different ideas I've heard this morning into an experimental plan to be placed on the ground. And this is an agenda agreed upon by government, by SNAF, to come together to do what we call the company training committees. It is to operationalize the ideas of Worker 4.0 that Brother Patrick Tay introduced to you just now at the lowest of the levels of individual, and now coming back up into the business level. So what would the company training committees do? Well, in essence, after a long day, I'll just summarize for you into 3 A's. The first thing the company training committees, or just simplify CTC, would do is to accelerate the acceptance of technology. In other words, have a formalized structure in the companies to talk to workers, to maybe even management about technology and what good it can bring to the businesses and to the workers. How productivity would enhance business, how productivity in time will bring better wages, better welfare, and better work prospects. First A, acceptance of technology. The second thing that the CTC can do is to accelerate the adoption of technology. And how would unions in Singapore help? Because we have a close relationship with the PAP government, we can access many of the Singaporean grants. Because we have E2I, we know what grants are relevant to what industries, in what ways you want to transform. So the CTC is not just to benefit the workers, it's to help our employers with government grants, and importantly, to help also the small, medium enterprise that one of our panelists mentioned about just now, I think it was Alan DeHaze. How do we help the small and medium enterprise? Well, through the CTCs, we want to bring in our A-star expertise of transformation, of thinking through obstacle solutioning, not just talking about technology as a general solution, but applying technology to solve your business problem. Do not go for the answer without knowing what is the problem your businesses would like to solve. Our government, partnering our E2I, can provide that platform in the CTC to help our companies. And of course, as the SecGen of the union, I have my vested interest for my workers as well. Through the CTC, we can know better the company's transformation plans. We can start the adoption of technology and for workers' outcome earlier in the process, so that we can partner management to go into different training programs to absorb the technology. And what will this create then? This will create the situation where the businesses and the workers actualize all the thinking here as fast as possible. Because your technology absorption curve, your technology utilization curve will be that much shorter. So that if we do it right, with CTC at least in part playing that role, you can capture business value and I can capture value for the workers as soon as possible. In Chinese, we have a saying, 一寸光阴一寸金. It's becoming so real today. A measure of time is equal to a weight of gold. And today, in the business world, you know that if you are the first mover, you have that strategic advantage. A 2-year advantage can mean life and death. So, if we can do this together as tripartite partners, and in Singapore's case, I know we can do it, because many of the companies are coming on board. Dr. Robert Yap have also agreed that this is a win-win thing for the two players in the tripartite relationship. He knows that businesses will win, I know that workers will win, and if we can do the first CTC, we will be able to convince more and more to come into the same space. In fact, we launched this idea only in March, and today we have already more than 20 already signing an MOU and many more to come. In fact, NTUC is working with our partners to put CTCs into companies at a rate of 1,000 in 3 years' time. 1,000 in 3 years' time, to see if we can move the needle. And when we aggregate all the companies coming together on this smart nation push, smart factory push, then we have a third win, not just for the companies, not just for the workers, but for our country as well. When this happens, what will we get? We will get sustainable growth from the macro level all the way down to our workers. Where in the last panel as well, CTCs are not meant for a one-pop innovation. If we operationalize that structure together with our business bosses, together with the government support, we can actually turn this into another strategic advantage for a small country like ours. So that's my simple point to you. Goldilocks is just to get you to wake up, but the real point is about getting all these ideas into an action plan. The CTC may not be applicable to all of you and may need to be evolved even in Singapore's context, but it is the first step to bring the future of work into reality today. And when we can have this clarity, I am more assured that my brothers and sisters on the ground can understand what we are talking about. And when they can understand what we are talking about, then we will have met the objective of this forum, making the future of work real and ensuring that national GDP growth is meaningful. Because in Singapore, we don't believe in just economic growth. Economic growth is meaningless if it is not shared with our citizens, our workers. So that is the common mantra that drives my brother Lim Swee Say, my sister Josephine, my sister Mary, and my partner in crime, Dr. Robert Yap. We want to cement this tripartite relationship for the common good of the workers, for our society, for our country. With that, may you go out and enjoy Singapore and see what we are today. And when ILO comes back again to Singapore, we will probably have a second jewel to show you. Enjoy Singapore. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ng.